All right, it's time to add some polish to this website. Not visually yet. There's still a little bit of functionality that I want to add here. So the homepage is pretty complete, right? Like we've got, this is Nick's portfolio, a picture of me. We have a link to my resume that you can download, and the projects are listing out, and it even shows the link, and it's, if there's not a link, it doesn't show up. That's pretty good. Really, the only thing I want here is a link on the homepage that can send us to all the blogs. So you should have everything in your tool belt in order to do this. So go ahead and add a link to this homepage that links to the all blogs page, which remember is just /blog. Hit pause, do that now. All right, hopefully that went well. What we got to do is go to our home.html, and right here up at the top, I'm going to add, after we have Nick's portfolio, I'm going to add an A tag that'll take us to the blog. All right, and that A tag, the href that I want in here, and I'm going to go ahead and do a BR after this so that we can, let's throw one after this one as well so it's a little bit easier to see. The href on this, remember this one's a little bit tricky because we're going to do our curly brackets with the percentage signs, and we're going to say URL and give the name that we're looking for is blog : and then I believed we called it all _ blogs. Let's double check that. Go to this URLs, and yes, we had called it all blogs. So the big important thing there was to remember that you have the blog : since we set the app name on those other URLs. Okay, so let's save this, check and see if this works. Got the blog and resume now. Now if I click on the blog, it takes me to this page. Okay, so moving on to the all blogs, what is it that we've got to fix here? Well, first, I would like to show how many blog posts that I have written up at the top. I think that would be kind of a cool addition for this page. So if I go ahead and move back to the code here, and let's move over to all blogs. Before we do the for loop, I'm going to add some sort of cool thing. So maybe inside of like a h2 tag here. All right, I'm going to mention like Nick has written like, maybe something like 4 blogs. Okay, so the thing is, if we just leave this as is, reload the page, it's not really great info because I've written more than 4 blogs. And the question is, well, how do I get to know that actual number? Well, we can use this blogs that's passed forward in order to get the count. So I can replace the number 4 here and simply say blogs.count. Okay, so if I save this and then reload this page, it says Nick has written 5 blogs. Now this isn't completely accurate, right? Because we had done the limiting thing here. If you go back to our views, I had said, limit it to the first 5. So this is probably good reason to get rid of this. If you did want to only show 5 yet still have the complete count, all you would have to do is like still do the blogs to get everything and make a different thing. Like you could have like blog _ count, and it would, be this blog.objects, and simply just do like a .count on the end of that, and then you would have to pass forward that. But I think that's way more than we need here. So I'm just going to get rid of this thing that says get the first 5, save this. So now if we come back, it'll say Nick has written 6, and it's going to show all 6 of them. So that's great, but let me walk you through one instance that doesn't really line up all too well. So let's say inside of the admin here, I'm going to go to my blogs. I'm going to delete all of the blogs except for 1. So if I go ahead and say delete these blogs, go, yes, I'm sure. All right, if I now reload this page, it looks a little weird. It says Nick has written 1 blogs. Nick has written 1 blog is what it's supposed to say, right? Well, Django has an awesome way to handle this situation about whether you should be plural or not. So what we do is we go back to the all blogs, and here, instead of actually typing out an S, what we're going to do is our double quotes, or double curly brackets, that is, and we're going to say blogs.count, just like we did over here, but then we're going to do the straight line, which this key is usually just right above your enter key. You got to hit shift to get it, but we're going to go ahead and say pluralize, just like this. Okay, so if we save this and come back and reload, the S does not appear. But if we go ahead and add just 1 more blog, like I just add one here and hit save, so that now that there's 2, when I reload, look at that, it says Nick has written 2 blogs. So it's pretty nifty. And even in fact, watch this. I'm going to delete everything. I delete all the selected blogs, and then I reload this. It still keeps the S. So it's smart enough to know if it's 0, keep the S. If it's 1, no S. And then if it's multiple, bring back the S. So that's kind of a cool little trick to make your templates that much cooler. Okay. So the next thing that we need to talk about here is that, you know, the date that comes with one of our blogs. So I'm going to add a blog here. Hello. Add in some random stuff, and I'm going to do a date. Okay. So if we go ahead and look at what the date looks like, it's Jan.24th, 2020. It's not terrible, but we could also make it look a whole lot cooler. So the way that we can control that styling is after the date. If we go ahead and do another one of those straight lines and we say date, colon, and then we pass in a string, we can specify in here what we want the date to look like. Now, to figure out what all the different variables are, if you just go ahead and Google Django template date format, Google's auto-completing for me here. If you scroll here, let's go ahead and search for the word date. The word date is everywhere. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here's the full list of like lowercase d represents the day of the month with like a 0 in front of it, whereas lowercase j doesn't. Like, there's all these different things here. But for example, I just want you to know that this exists, and this is where I'm pulling it from. If inside of this string I do something like capital M, capital D, capital Y, lowercase d that is, and I save this, and I go back and I reload this all blogs, look at that. It shows like how I want it. It says Jan 24th, 2020 without the commas and the period. And the reason it showed that before is that's just sort of the default. If you don't specify a specific format, it'll just do that. But I think it's cool to show this. Like if I wanted to get rid of the year, for example, I just delete that, save, reload, boom. It's like that. I like to see the year, so I'm going to go ahead and put that back there. And also, if I do another straight line here and I say on this upper, what this does is it uppercases everything. So then the date looks even cooler, that, you know, it's all caps Jan 24, 2020. So there's a little bit of customization that you can do there. Now, the next thing is that with the blog description, let's go ahead and edit this particular blog. Let's say that it was really big. Like I'm going to copy and just paste this puppy over and over again. Okay, so this is like a really big entry. I save this. Okay, and I reload this page. It's like, in my opinion, this is giving away too much information. I just want a short preview, and if someone wants to read the full thing, they can click on the blog and then go get all its particular details, okay? So the way that we can cap this is if we go back to Adam, and here, inside of the description, after this, we're going to do another straight line, and we're going to say truncate chars, and then we're going to do colon, how many characters we want it to be. So maybe I'll say something like 100, and if I save this and reload this page, look at that. It cuts it off and it does the ellipses if it happens to be longer than 100 characters. Pretty cool, huh? One more thing to keep in mind. Our blog posts can handle having HTML tags in it. So for example, like if I wanted this particular thing to be bold, I could put, you know, an opening B tag and an ending B tag on this. And let's say I wanted like a new line here. I could do like a opening paragraph tag and then like an ending one here. Okay, if I save this and then I reload here, well, it doesn't show yet. You can get it to show if you make it say something like, let's do another line after this. Or we need to do it up here actually before it does the truncating. If I say safe, for instance, and then I reload this page, it's going to apply like the boldness in the new paragraph tag. But in our case, we don't want it to show the bold or the new tag, like it should just flow on. But we also don't want it to do the other thing of actually showing, you know, like the angled brackets in B and all that stuff. So how do you get rid of that? Well, instead of doing the safe, you do a strip tags, save this. Now reload this page and it doesn't apply any of the HTML tags. And it still does the ellipses for that. Pretty cool, huh? So now this page is complete. Really all that we have left is the blog detail. So right now we just have the title, so we're missing a lot of pieces here. So let's go ahead and we want to go to our detail. I'm going to maybe wrap this inside of like an H1 and that H1 here inside of an H2. I'm going to provide the date. So I'm going to say here blog.date. And I'm going to do the cool formatting that we had before. So I'm going to say date : and then on this one, I'm going to say capital F, lowercase j, capital S, capital Y. And then with this, on the outside of these, I'm going to add these dashes to make it look a little bit cool. Okay. So the end result of this is it says now January 24th, 2020. So the different parts that I add there, like the J does the number where the capital S adds like the tith, if it's a tith, but if it's like the second, it'll add an ND, the full name of the month there, all that good stuff. So that's there. Really the last piece is we just have to display the blog text, and so, or in the blog description. So I'm going to say blog.description, and I'm going to say that this thing is safe. Okay. Because remember, that's going to apply all the styling. So now when I reload this, this is the place that we would want bold to apply, or paragraph tags, so that we could, break things up into different pieces. So now we technically have a completely functional site. It is really disgusting, but all the pieces are there. There's one last thing that I'd just like to show you, and that's that here inside of the admin, there's some really unuseful information. So for example, this page lists all the blog objects, or a better example will be with the projects because we have multiples of those. It just says that this is project object 1 and 2. We have to click on these to see, oh, that's the one called My First Project, or this is the one that's called Number 2 Man. It'd be really nice if we could just see that on the outset. And we can change this if we go ahead and move back into our model. So I'm going to do this for the model of project. I'm going to add a new function here that's just underscore underscore str underscore underscore. All right. And we have to pass self inside of there with the colon. And basically, this is just a function that returns what the default name is when someone looks at one of these objects. So in this case, I want to return the title. So I'm just going to say return self.title. I know, really simple here, but making this one small change when I reload this page now, in my admin, it's going to show My First Project and Number 2 Man, which is a lot more helpful for me than seeing what I saw before. Like, oh, okay. Well, it will help you get to things quicker. So you can totally customize this. Like if you wanted to add the title and then also, like the description or something, the first couple of characters, you could add things onto here. That's totally fine. I'm going to do this exact same thing for the blog. So I'm going to open up my blog model, add this same function here. Okay, so that now if I go to the blog, look, it shows the title of whatever it is. If I, change this thing, save it, it's going to have that there. Now you may be wondering, oh, do I need to make migrations because I added something new to the model? You don't. In fact, if you try and do make migrations, it's going to say no changes detected. And basically the reason for that is that functions on a blog have nothing to do with the database. They're not going to be entering or have any effect on that. It's really just the properties here of this model that that's when it's important to say, okay, if I've made a change, I want to migrate that. Okay. Congrats on finishing the site, but we are not done. This thing is ugly and we've got to fix that.